And it was so funny. I was talking to somebody one time and they told me that they didn't have enough time. I was like, have you read any books on, like time and how to get more time and how to be more efficient with your time? He said, dude, I don't have time to read a book about time. I'm just like,
you simply say, I'm choosing to spend my time in this way, because then it really shifts your mindset. And what we know is it's mindset first, and when you start to look at things differently, Wayne Dyer said it, the things you look at change.
You can have the quality of days that you want for yourself. If you want to treat the pets, if you want to see a lot of animals and you still want to take a lunch and you don't want to be at the hospital 2 hours after you guys close, and if you want to go home and spend time with the kids, but you don't want to lose profitability, I'm here to tell you that it can be done.
There's a big joke about it, right? Like, ain't nobody got time for that. And we, whether it's sort of that joke,
But the problem is most people will say, I don't have time to sit down and think for an hour a day. And I beg to differ. Okay, welcome back to another one of our Get Motivated podcast episodes. Really excited to be here with you guys today. And again, it's Dr. Holly, your co-host, along with our other co-host, Renee Michelle. We're really excited today to talk about time. Time is one of the few things on planet Earth that we can never get back. We can't necessarily create more of it, and it truly is one of the most important things to learn how to not manage, but master. And that's the exact topic of today's podcast, is time management versus 24-hour mastery for well-being. And with that being said, how you doing today, Renee?
I'm doing really well. I feel good about this morning. And, we had talked a little bit about, how the weekend was already. And today is Monday for us. So I really like Mondays. Mondays historically for us have been pretty consistent with what they look like. And we have some things that are scheduled, but we recently added podcasting on. And so for us, that, added some time to us in the morning, but it's been a really enjoyable process. And it just goes to show that, those 24 hours, they can be negotiated.
Yes.
So doing pretty good.
And the cool thing is we've actually, with Get Motivated University, you've probably heard us mention that on previous episodes quite a bit now. Get Motivated University being the world's first online platform, school of well-being, specifically for veterinary professionals, with audio, video, and written content, super robust. The course on 24-hour mastery it's going to be super awesome. You guys are really going to enjoy that. And today is just a snippet of a lot of the things that we cover in that course. So if you're intrigued by today's topic at all, then I highly suggest you check out our 24-hour mastery step number 3 on Get Motivated University. You'll probably enjoy that and really love it. With that being said, Renee, I'm going to start out by basically giving my definition of how I feel that time management differs from 24-hour mastery. We've all heard of time management before, but 24-hour mastery has been something that's relatively new to me. I've learned it from a lot of my mentors, from a lot of books that I've read of people who, you've heard of like Tim Ferriss and his, what is it called? The 4-hour work week. Is that right? I haven't read that. I haven't read that book yet, but just that concept in and of itself says it all. Like the 4-hour work week, where you're still able to get everything done with, a certain amount of time. And I believe there are just so many resources out there, and I've been through a lot of them. I've learned from my mentors. I've practiced a lot of these things myself. And I've seen how you can really get a lot done if you're able to master your 24 hours. Now, I'm going to break this down really quickly, and I'm going to let Renee take over for a second. But time management is going to be more so managing the hours of the day, managing your 24 hours to get your duties and responsibilities done. Okay. So you've got, the 24 hours of the day, you got to go to work, got to get that done, come home, do some other things. You manage the 24 hours. 24-hour mastery, in my opinion, is really based around your well-being. So everything that's done in my day is with my well-being, both personally and professionally, in mind. So time management takes no consideration to your well-being, whereas 24-hour mastery is strictly geared towards maximizing your well-being with the time that you have in a given day. And with the rest of this podcast, we're going to give you guys a few different hacks that may help you really just take life to the next level by, doubling it up with some of the time. I think with 24-hour mastery, you can get 36 hours in a day even. I'm going to teach you guys how to do that. But what do you think, Renee?
Yeah, I think they're pretty spot on. Management, when we think of management, we talk a lot about self-management and self-development, self-discipline, things like that. But when I think of management, it's more about dealing with things rather than mastery that says, okay, we're becoming really proficient at a certain set of skills. And 24 hours is just part of that. And you're right. I think that when we look to other mentors or role models who are excelling in this area, you're able to see different results coming from different people. You got to start asking, why, how, and this is one of those areas that when it comes to well-being, and holistic well-being at that, when we're looking at all of the different facets that go into our lives and ourselves, that 24 hours, that's a big one. It comes up a lot, and it's almost a misconception, when we start talking to people about meditation or well-being, whatever discipline that you're starting with, one of the first things, that will come up is time. And so it's a really important concept to be able to understand and be able to deal with it, like master, really, so.
And it's so common in this profession that people say, I don't have time to do this, or I don't have time to do that. They don't have time as a hospital or as an organization to have weekly meetings, or as a hospital owner, maybe you don't have time to go out and recruit to find another doctor to come work at your hospital. I don't have time to do that. And then the person that I hired doesn't have time to do that either, and right. we see,
or I don't have time to make that phone call.
I don't have time to make a phone call. Like it's such a big thing. And I feel that while I'm not perfect at it, it's certainly a work in progress every single day, trying to become more efficient at it. And the difference is, Renee, I believe, between you, myself, and many others, was that we're actively working to become more proficient and better. And I believe that that's the name of the game. Like, are you self-aware to know that you haven't learned to really master those 24 hours yet, and that you need some more refinement? Or are you just kind of carry on throughout your day, subpar in your 24-hour mastery? Like, I really believe that that's a big part.
Right, and completely oblivious.
Right. And you,
right, because if you're like completely.
Yeah, completely oblivious, Renee, and not realizing that it's a lie that you don't have enough time. It's a lie that you don't have enough time. You haven't made the time. That's true. But that you don't have enough time is a lie. Because wait, here's the thing. I'm gonna let you jump in a second. But I specifically remember Eric Thomas saying that if you only have 24 hours in a day, then your success must be dependent upon how you spend your 24 hours. And he said that he doesn't care if you grew up broke, if you grew up rich, if you're in college, if you're out of college, if you have a job, if you don't have a job, we all have 24 hours in a day. Oprah Winfrey, Warren Buffett, Ted Turner, successful people, unsuccessful people. That is the one thing that we all have in common, is that those number of hours in the day. And if you look at a person like Oprah Winfrey, I can assure you her 24 hours, even before she became like the major success Oprah Winfrey, that her 24 hours probably looks vastly different than the person who, you know, isn't doing that level of service for the world.
And I think, you know, there's something that goes to say, success, I think, can be defined by the person, you know, and what a successful day, again, is going to be defined by the person. So what you can go to bed or wake up in the morning and say, this is what today is going to, you know, this is, if I get X, Y, and Z done, if I experience X, Y, and Z, if I feel X, Y, and Z, then I feel like it's a successful day. So the other thing is when you're completely oblivious to where you fall on whatever Richter scale that might be. And if you're moving toward becoming more aware of how you spend your 24 hours, or, you know, what makes those things up, there are different times where I have implemented another tool that I no longer use, right? And so we'll get into that a little bit further, but, you know, as you move through the process, what works for different people, like at different stages of the game, I think that that's really important too, you know, to just know where you are. And I think the third thing, the no time, that lie that we tell ourselves, I think that it's more of a behavioral loop. I think it's a habit of speech that comes based on cultural norms. So, you know, there's a big joke about it, right? Like, ain't nobody got time for that. Like, and we, whether it's sort of that joke, you know, or just the go-to neural network or rut that you have created to say, I don't have time. I have a conversation with someone that I know very frequently, and the same conversation gets brought up, and it's almost like they've already got it loaded. You know, they know what the conversation's going to be, and it's going to be, no, I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time. And yet, you know, so that's where the paradox comes from of, you know, one, if we can just agree that we have time, instead, it's about how we choose to spend our time.
Priority.
That slight change in verbiage really shifts your mindset to say, instead of saying, I don't have the time, you simply say, I'm choosing to spend my time in this way.
Yes.
Because then it really shifts your mindset. And what we know is it's mindset first. You know, and when you start to look at things differently, Wayne Dyer said it, the things you look at change.
And what you just said is more empowering than saying, I don't have the time, because that's a lie. You do have the time, right? But to say that I'm choosing to spend that time doing something else that I feel is more important right now, or that has a higher priority, it lets you know that the fact that you didn't spend time with your wife yesterday evening is because you chose to, not because you couldn't, because you didn't have the time. You just chose to go to your meeting. That's all it is, man. You had time with your wife. You could have said no to the meeting and yes to the wife, or, you know, I can be here for the meeting for 30 minutes and I'm gonna go home, you know, cut the hour-long meeting short, whatever you have to do, but you are empowered to be able to make those decisions for yourself. And sometimes I really do believe it's a lie. And we talked about this on our mindfulness talk of the whole lunch ordeal of, I don't have time to take a lunch break. I make time to take a lunch break. It's happening. It's happening. You know, I don't know what.
And there's
what has to get pushed back,
and there's ways,
or how to
there's ways to get to that, so all of this is incremental. You gotta use some common sense with it, and a healthy dose of common sense, but it's incremental. There's ways in mindfulness. It's, it's about having compassion. It's about, implementing things that of kindness. So if it's, and all of the things that we're talking about are going to help you with becoming more effective in your communication. So that, yes, when you're communicating with yourself, it makes more sense, but also when you're communicating with others, you're doing it in a way that yields the results that you want, and you're showing up as your best possible self, as that empowered self who says, I'm advocating for myself and I'm doing it in a way that I can feel proud about. I'm not being mean. I'm not saying, I'm not coming to your meeting, or I don't want to spend no time with you, whatever the case is, but you can do it in a way that, all right, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm proposing. Maybe we need to renegotiate where our time is being spent. Maybe, if it is a conversation with your spouse or your employer or your team, yourself, having those conversations that, yes, it's going to feel awkward at first when you are starting to advocate and say, okay, team, I need to have a lunch today. What do we need to do in order to make that happen? Because I want my lunch, but I also want you guys to have your lunch. And, maybe it's the meeting. Okay. I know that none of us want to really be here. So what can we do? Are there areas to where we can explore a remote meeting? You got to get creative.
Yes.
If you're going to master 24 hours, you have to get creative and you have to get resourceful, and no one is going to have an exact blueprint for your life. We don't know what the blueprint for a professor might be, how it looks different from, an entrepreneur. If you're trying to be Oprah versus if you're trying to be Eric Thomas, those blueprints look different, right? If you're just trying to be a mentally stable human being and you need to, get your mind right, that's going to look different. What's that?
Right. I said they don't have to be Oprah and or Warren Buffett. I'm not asking anyone to do that by any means, right? And I think that's a great segue, Renee. You said you have to get creative, because creativity comes from time in and of itself. If I give you 5 seconds to solve a problem, a complex problem, you ain't gonna be able to do it. You are not going to be able to solve a complex problem in 5 seconds. But if you can string together 5 hours by taking 1 hour a day for 5 days, I guarantee you that if you're thinking about how can I spend time with my wife on Friday, okay, and do my meeting at the same time, that you can come up with something that will allow you to be able to do that. But the problem is most people will say, I don't have time to sit down and think for an hour a day. And I beg to differ. But at any rate, jump in really quickly. And then that's what we're going to do, guys. We're going to get into, I'm going to give you my top time hack that I believe will just explode your life to like the next level, because it absolutely did that for me. And I've seen this work for many others. And then Renee's going to give you her top time hack as well. But before we do that, Renee, get him, Nay.
You said it, it struck such a chord that, taking the time to define it, right, it's just mental work. It's pondering, we could get into the nitty gritty of shaving, finding time for your mental real estate or your bandwidth, but I like to call it it's there. But I had a conversation, and whatever department it is, and in this case, it's the 24-hour mastery, it's the first question that you need to ask yourself is, what does it look like? Followed very closely behind, what does it feel like? So what does it look like? What does it feel like? If you have no idea, if you can't answer those questions, that's where you start, that's where I want you to picture a really rusty large gear in your mind. And I want you to picture yourself at the bottom of that gear with your hand on it and just turning it to where you are starting to turn that rusted gear and, you know, maybe lubricating it to where it's starting to work again. Because many of us are generations into their lives, and this is not an area of focus. We just sort of go with what's there. And like I said earlier, with cultural norms, wherever you're working, wherever you're living, you just kind of end up maybe absorbing into whatever is structure system is there, right? But we know that the systems don't work for everyone. And so asking those questions can really be like a big light bulb. Like you mentioned earlier, okay, I want to spend more time with my wife. I had a conversation with a friend, and it was a very similar conversation. And it was, okay, you know, what does it look like? What does it feel like? And my friend said, my gosh, I cannot answer that question. And that's brilliant. And so a couple weeks later, she texted me and said, I've been writing it down every day. And when I write it down, it begins to get clearer. And I'm just writing it down while I'm traveling, and I'm thinking about it while I'm on the go. Yes. Because it's not anything that I've ever, you know, given some thought to. So take that for what it's worth. But those are two really thought-provoking questions. Write that down on a piece of paper and start to just, like Dr. Holly said, you know, you're moving toward refinement. And so you have to start with like this really gross picture of what does it look like, or what does it feel like? Because the feeling is what people are going for. You know, when we're talking about time and how we spend our time, often it is our actions are driven by the feelings that we're trying to experience. If we're trying to experience connection with our wives or husbands, then we are spending time with them, you know? Right. If we, maybe, who knows what the environment is in the home. And so maybe if you're trying to have a successful win at work, and you're trying to get that next sale to put food on the table, and that means that you're closer to getting that win. You know, that feeling is, maybe I'm a provider. I've done good. I've accomplished something, you know, and so it's necessary that you start to pay attention to what those forces are that make up the behaviors that we have, and the rationalizations, and then our speech and everything that's connected to it.
Yes, absolutely. And before I get into stacking, which is the technique I'm going to share with you guys today, I just kind of want to talk about empowerment and self-confidence and self-belief. They're so important in this moment, because you may honestly believe, and I'm sorry if I insulted you earlier, that you don't have enough time, because you are busy. I don't think you're lazy. I think that you probably are working really hard, whoever you are, wherever you are. Veterinary students working really hard. And this is all about empowering you to know that even though you're working hard, my favorite quote of all time, or one of them at least, it's the small refinements upon something that's already good that makes it great. So anything that's good or great can be improved upon. And I just want you to know that you can do everything that you want to do in life, that you can have the quality of days that you want for yourself. If you want to treat the pets, if you want to see a lot of animals, and you still want to take a lunch, and you don't want to be at the hospital 2 hours after you guys closed, and if you want to go home and spend time with the kids, but you don't want to lose profitability on your hospital, you don't want to lose production, I'm here to tell you that it can be done. How? Who knows? But the point of everything of 24-hour mastery is that you're going to spend so much time trying to figure that out. The human mind is powerful. The human mind is creative. People have built skies. God, we put somebody on the moon. All right. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't even
Mm-hmm.
get close to thinking of how in the heck I could get something from here to the moon. I can't even figure out how to get from here to Egypt. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, that would probably be a process in and of itself. But yet the humans have put someone on the moon. You can figure out
Mm-hmm.
how to be profitable and not kill yourself at work in terms of just like burning yourself out. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
it can be done. And it was so funny. I was talking to somebody one time and they told me that they didn't have enough time. I was like, have you read any books on, you know, like time and how to get more time and how to be more efficient with your time? He said, dude, I don't have time to read a book about time. I'm just like, I was like, you sure about that, bro? Like, you
Oh,
don't
that's so
have
funny.
time.
That's so
You have, it's the chicken or the egg.
yeah.
You got to take the time. You got to make
Right.
the time. Wake up 30 minutes earlier
Well,
and chop away
here
at that book. 10 minutes earlier and chop away at that book, because you're going to learn something in that book. It's going to give you more time
mm-hmm.
to everything you want to
Mm-hmm.
do and more.
That's so funny. That's so funny. Yeah, you know, it's so funny. People, we're not talking about drastically, I mean, we're talking about some massive actions. Yeah. But we're not talking about doing a 360 in a matter of 24 hours. Okay. So, you know, there's a quote on my wall that goes exactly with what you just said, Dr. Holly, and I mentioned in one of our courses. It's the mind has exactly the same power as the hands, not merely to grasp the world, but to change it.
Mm.
Colin Wilson. And that goes to say that, you know, you had said, you know, if you want the time in your practice, who knows, right? Who knows the answer? You know the answer.
Yeah.
That's the empowerment part, is you know the answer. And if you don't, you know how to get the answer. You know, you're around other humans. And so, you know, you need to phone a friend. You need to read a book. Some of this stuff has already been figured out for us, and you have to just make it work for you.
Yes.
But that's where, you know, that's hilarious to me, where, you know, I don't have the time to read a book on time. And here's the thing, in the day of audiobooks and stuff. So, you know, I'm excited. Tell us about stacking, Doc.
I'm going to tell you about stacking. Stacking changed my life. It changed my life, Renee. I stack all the time. And okay, so stacking stands for, it's an acronym: simultaneously taking action and consuming knowledge. At first, it was just a word, like I was stacking one thing on top of the other. And then I came up with the acronym later because I was like, that's exactly what it is. You're taking action to change your life while you're getting smarter to be able to take more intelligent and efficient and effective actions to change your life at an even more rapid rate. So, okay, so what is simultaneously taking action?
Chances are someone's doing it right now, right?
Heck yeah.
Because they're listening to this podcast, right? Okay.
Who's doing it?
Yeah. People.
I mean, what person is doing it right now? Like, think about
Veterinary
like
professionals.
But just in terms of what are they doing to make listening to this?
9:36. Currently commuting. They're commuting or getting ready for work. Maybe they're in the shower. They got you know, either the phone's on top of the shower like I do, or maybe they've got the Bluetooth speaker, you know, whatever. Maybe they're doing that. I think that. So shower, getting ready for work.
On the treadmill.
On their way to work, commuting.
On the treadmill.
There you go.
On the treadmill.
Yeah.
So vacuuming the floor.
That's right.
So if you're learning anything from what Renee and I are saying right now, and you're doing something else, that is stacking. And that, if you weren't doing that intentionally, with the intention of gaining an extra hour in the day, then I'm here to tell you that it needs to be something that's deliberate and planned and done on a daily basis, because it will allow you to get so much more done while you're constantly improving yourself. So if you're listening to an audiobook, if you're listening to a YouTube video, and you are cleaning up at the same time, like, that truly is personal development. And you are beating yesterday. And so essentially, you're going to be better tomorrow than you are today, because you are taking actions towards that. Your house is going to be more clean, and you're going to be a little bit smarter than you were. You're going to have an extra tool to be able to take on different challenges in the day. So before I go any further, I took this to an extreme level, Now, I'm going to go over a few different things that I was able to accomplish by learning to stack. When I first made my transformation back in November 2016, I was able to read over 60 books in 10 months. I wrote 2 books in that same time period. I was able to lose, I think, about 35, 40 pounds in about an 8-month period. I started 2 businesses. I was working full-time and eventually part-time, and then eventually full-time and get motivated. But I was working as a full-time practicing veterinarian while I was still accomplishing all that, reading the books. Now, I did something very extreme by waking up really, really early. So I started waking up an hour earlier, then an hour earlier, then an hour earlier. And I got that down to the point where I was waking up at 3 o'clock, like sometimes 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm not recommending that. I'm not even suggesting that to you, but maybe it's 30 minutes earlier for you that you do every single day, where you wake up 30 minutes earlier, and you don't even have to do personal development. You can go do something that you feel that you don't have time to do. Maybe it's working out. Maybe you and your significant other wake up 30 minutes earlier and spend some quality time with each other. Maybe you do just some house cleaning, anything you want to do. Now, one of the coolest ways that I stacked, and I think this is one of the best examples of it, is that when I was working full time at Banfield, so I would take my lunch break and I would literally go to a soccer complex, and I would run hills and just kind of do some running, some exercising. If Renee was with me, we'd do a little bit of yoga, maybe do some medicine ball exercises. But that's just one part of it. So now I'm getting my exercise in, right, during my lunch break. I had my headphones on me all the time. So I could listen to an inspirational YouTube video. I could listen to an audiobook on time mastery. I could listen to an audiobook on burnout. I could listen to an audiobook on financial literacy, on getting, smarter or something like that. The other thing I'd be doing was, one thing it was on my sort of ideal life description was spending time in nature. I'm out here at the soccer complex, trees everywhere. I'm on the grass, looking up at the clouds, so I'm getting some really quality, I'm getting some fresh air. I'm decompressing from anything that happened at work earlier that day. And I'm also exercising, and I'm doing all that within a 1 hour time frame. So now I've basically compressed 3 hours worth of things into 1 hour's worth of time. And maybe someone would look at that situation and say, gosh, man, all right. When they're writing out their 24 hours, they would say, okay, when I get home, I'm going to go outside, spend some time in nature for an hour, and then I'm going to work out for an hour, and then I'm going to read a book for an hour. So that's really 3 hours worth of things compressed into 1 hour's worth of time while you're at work. So you are earning money. You didn't stop your money earning process. So you can still pay off your student loans. You can still buy things. You can still pay the bills. And the cool part is that when you go back into work, you're going to feel so much better. Maybe you learned a tool that can help you with maintaining your fulfillment and your happiness for the rest of the day. And just other quick examples before I pass it over to Renee for her to share her tool with you guys. When you're on an airplane, you could be listening to an audiobook, okay? Or you can be doing a gratitude exercise. You can be thinking, brainstorming. When I'm stuck in traffic, it's one of my favorite things. Like, most people hate traffic. I love it. I'm sitting there. I'm like, okay, if I'm stuck in traffic for an extra 2 hours, that's no problem. If I'm waiting at the barbershop for 2 hours, or if I'm at the doctor's office and it's going to take me 3 hours for my daughter, she's in the ER, so be it. That's the 3 hours worth of reading, worth of brainstorming, worth of gratitude, worth of thinking that I can do for myself that really makes me a better person. And so that's really the ultimate concept of stacking. It wasn't something that was really common to me, but it's something that's a major part of my life. I do that every single day. It allowed me just to get a ton of stuff done. All that stuff helped me to get even more done. Yep.
That's awesome, Doc. And I think that you made a really good point as far as, like, if you happen to be doing it and you're not really paying attention to, what you're doing or how it's working for you, that's where, being mindful, paying attention to that helps you, because now you can do it deliberately and you can refine it to serve you even better. And when we're talking about stacking, I want to make sort of a disclaimer that says we're not telling you to multitask your way, through life and not be mindful. What we're talking about, multitasking, I get it. We're in veterinary profession, but I'm a researcher, and the science is loading up the evidence that multitasking is not serving us nearly as what we once thought it was. And so for mindfulness, that's where our brains are not designed to be doing complex tasks all at the same time. So if you are doing deep work, if you are trying to solve that complex issue, whether it be with a patient or your life, maybe it's the 24 hours, don't be doing surgery at the same time. Don't be having a meaningful conversation about the lost family member that she just experienced, So again, healthy dose of common sense, but know that there's a time and place to be doing these things and doing it in the most effective way to where it matters to you. And maybe it matters to other people, it sort of radiates outward. If you have a second nature skill, like you can run and listen to something, great. There was a point in time where I wasn't stacking necessarily. What I was doing was I was multitasking, and I ended up burning myself, because I was trying to do at some point too many things at once. But I think shallow tasks are easier done together. I think that tasks that don't require a lot of our attention, but as soon as you notice that balance tip, as soon as you say, "Oop, I made a mistake," now it's time to focus in. Now it's time to say, I got to take off one of my things and really focus on these two things. We don't want you cutting your hands or burning yourself, something like that, because you're not really paying attention. But, just kind of pay attention to those things. So
I would say a major part of it is, are you getting results? And are those positive? If you feel better due to your stacking, and if you're losing the pounds and you feel healthier because, you've been doing this and doing that on top of each other, that's a great way to take self-inventory and have self-awareness of whether or not this is actually working out well for me. But if you feel miserable and you're like, I hate that, then maybe you need to refine your stacking technique, as Renee said.
But know that it's going to be a little uncomfortable at first, like when we haven't been to the gym for a long time and then you work, our muscles are fatigued and stuff. And so know that it's going to feel a little awkward or uncomfortable at first. But yes, if you're down and out miserable, like it's just not working for you. But the energy, you said the energy part, where you come back and you've got that second leg of the day where the energy really changes. And I think energy is such a currency when it comes to 24-hour mastery. And that's where sometimes having the conversations with ourselves or having the conversations with other people about that paradox of I don't have the time can be complicated. Like Dr. Holly said, maybe you really don't have the time, but what needs to change in order to get you the time to exercise, so that you have the energy in order to go for one more hour or be more effective in the hour that you're, the hour that's left before you leave work, so that there's less to do at the end of the day, rather than, if you think about those work days where you start to slow down, you're doing less, you've had those days where you think, I've gotten more done in this day than I did last night, so what's different? What's different about last night and this morning? And so the energy can kind of change. The people that you're working with, maybe they're bringing you up. Maybe they're draining some of your energy. So that's a really important part. But I think for my tip, I think what I shared earlier is probably the best tip. Is I'm such a paper person that, I like to see things outlined. I like to see things on paper outlined. There was a time where I had a planner and it was breaking down the 24 hours. And so instead of, you know, looking at the month or the week, you know, I started to break it down per day, and that helped me for a period of time. But I still live by my planners, and again, it's gross to refine. So I want to know what's the year's looking like, what the month is looking like, what the weeks are looking like, down to the days, and different time periods that matters more for me, you know, those specific hours. Once I got the hang of how I wanted to spend those specific hours, you know, I let that tool go to the wayside, and now I'm in the groove. But when something, we were just talking about this morning, our schedules might change in the next month. And so we wanted, you know, that might be something that I implement, you know, is what do the hours look like? You know, because I think we were having the conversation about like where the president is working on a minute calendar. I read that somewhere. You know, they're packing in 2-3 minutes of time that you schedule, and versus, you know, saying, oh, can I see him on April 15th? Okay, sure. 9:23. Does that work for you? You know? And so this was a few years ago, so I'm not sure, you know, I think it was Barack maybe who was president at the time.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. I got that from David.
Yeah, I think that's,
he said it in the book Rising Grind that President Obama is operating off of a 3 and 4 minute time blocks, basically. So that's how schedule's broken down.
Okay. Yeah.
3 and 4 minute time blocks. Yeah.
And that's a lot for like the mental track for me, you know, but if someone, you know, yeah, I think it.
And I'm sure he's got an able advisor or assistant.
He's got people.
Him, be here.
Oh yeah.
Here's the phone. It's so and so to handle all of that. But
yeah.
We don't have to be that refined, of course, but yeah.
But who knows? Maybe you're somewhere, maybe you are the really busy dean, you know, and maybe you have the resources to get a personal assistant, and you need to find some time, and you need someone to help you do that. So you never know. And that's where the value of your priorities or what your values are matter. Sometimes it's just like pets, you know, people think, you know, when their pet's in trouble, they can find the money. So, some way or form, whatever that saying is, I can't think of it, some way, shape or form. There you go. Maybe something like that, you know, where you will find the resources. So, depending on how much it means to you and the why, you know, that those values, why you're doing this, why do you want more time? How do you want to feel? So those things all play a role.
I love it. And, you know, I think that with those 2 tips alone, an individual could probably make some major strides.
Some major
strides, man, in regards to their time. And the cool part to realize and to keep in mind is that the more personal development that you do sort of with your time, and that's the major concept of stacking, is that you're consuming knowledge. That is personal development. You're developing your mind, all right, to be more solutions oriented by having more sort of knowledge to handle some of the day-to-day challenges that you have. That in doing so, you become even better at, more proficient at managing the hours and managing the time. So it's worth making the time to do the work, to do the change,
right,
to read that book. Don't be the person who says, I don't have time to read a book about time. Okay, I don't have time to read about burnout. If the people in your hospital are struggling with burnout, find time to do that. If people aren't motivated,
and it serves
read a book on motivation, organizational motivation. I don't know, but do something.
It serves you professionally too.
Yes.
Right? Like if you're trying to grow in your professional role, think about all the things that we just said and see how it impacts your professional development and you leveling up, solving problems, managing yourself, you know, mastering time. Wherever you are in the veterinary professional, chances are you have a high workload. And so if you can get that work done and exceed that, to where you are firing on all cylinders and your energy and your personality is radiating, and you're talking and you're having these conversations with leadership and how do I develop, this is so powerful for empowering people in their professional development as well as, becoming leaders, leveling up. I think it's such an important part of, and that goes to the holistic side of things, and that fulfilling career and life.
Yes. And the stacking can be done on a very cost-effective basis. YouTube is free. Mm-hmm. For all intents and purposes, YouTube is free. Audible is...
This podcast.
Yeah, so Audible is one of the resources that you can get for like audiobooks. The only thing with Audible that I didn't really like that much was the fact that A, you had to pay for it, and then B, it wasn't veterinary specific, which is why we created things like this podcast. But most importantly, I'll say it again, Get Motivated University is the perfect stacking platform for veterinary professionals because we have so many different resources that it's all veterinary specific. So everything we talk about, we push it back towards the veterinary profession. Renee and I combined have probably read over 150 books over the past 2.5, 3 years. And we have extracted a lot of that information and we are making it veterinary specific so that it serves you in the best way. You don't have to go find and read descriptions of tons of books on well-being and on time and on self-discipline and on self-belief because we've already gone through, created that content for you in one location, one platform where you can basically get every single thing that you need as it relates to your well-being. So I really encourage you to check that out. And if you have any questions about Get Motivated University and how it works or how it may actually serve you, then I highly recommend that you do that. And yeah, there's just so much that you can take away from that. But with that being said, do you have any final remarks, Renee?
No, I don't think so. I'm going to actually, we're in the studio now, but I think I'm actually going to go down and do some stacking a little bit. We've got a conference call and I'm going to take that call in the backyard actually to hang out with Eli and be out there in nature. It's a nice day and do that. So I don't think I do. I hope that I changed my mind. I do. I want to know. I want you guys to tell us what you're up to, if you've done a self-inventory with where you are, where what you got from this podcast, what you like, what could be better, and how does it resonate with you, where you are, maybe what you're trying to achieve, or what tools you guys are going to implement. I would really like to know that. That's my...
Or if you're a stacker already, and you have seen the benefits, please leave a comment, send an email so that we can circulate that out to the rest of our listening audience so that they can get it too. Because if you know about stacking, I know you've achieved the results, and I really hope that you share those with your colleagues and let them know that there are tools, strategies, and resources out there, okay? With that being said, this does conclude our Get Motivated podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next episode.